Welcome to the Wake Up Call for the Soul podcast with Bill and Claire, where we go deep and wide on subjects intended to support our awakening to greater truth, beauty, goodness, freedom, joy, peace, harmony, and love. Hey Claire, how you doing?
I am doing well.
Oh, it's so good to be back with you here. So today's topic, we have a very long list of possibilities, and so the one that we have chosen to start with here, I don't know if we're going to end here, but I'm confident we're starting here, is on the topic of dun 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 sin. Sin. I feel like I have to use a deep voice, sin, it's so heavy. And so, anyways, and like I was telling Claire before we started recording, I'm in a pretty happy and joyful space today. So I'm very curious to see how this conversation goes because I have no idea what's going to come up for me talking about this topic of sin in the sort of energy and awareness that I'm in right now. So I'm very curious about that. So yeah, so cool. Yeah, this I'm going to be honest, Claire. I mean, this topic was not on my radar at all. So when it came up, I was like, okay, sure, why not? Like, let's just go, like if it's coming up for you, then I'm game. So yeah, so what inspired you to want to have this conversation at this point?
Oh man. It's been something that's been on my mind recently. As I'm going through my own healing process with my mental health and some trauma that I've been through, just the idea of sin just keeps popping back up.
Mm,
And I thought, okay, well, obviously, maybe I should be learning more about that, opening my mind up. What does it mean? How do I want to understand it? How does that fit into my life and my understanding? And um, I'm also curious why it's coming up in my healing journey. I think I can kind of make some assumptions, but it's just something that's been very present, and I have
mm.
been recently just hearing other perspectives about it, and it made me curious. So I thought it would be a good topic.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean that this word, I mean, especially depending on someone's kind of upbringing and background, that this word, this idea, this concept would could resonate in terms of someone's healing journey, whether the trauma was experienced from others or even from just well the conditions on this planet or whether we ourselves might have somehow been involved in possibly causing harm or trauma to others, whether we intended to or not, these kinds of things. So I appreciate you telling me that because like honestly coming into this like I had no context, it was like the word sin and it's like okay, we're going to talk about sin. So now I'm even more excited to talk about this topic because it is personally resonant for you at this point. And so hopefully in our conversation, you might, and hopefully myself too, might even experience some lightness or healing or peace or love, kind of infused into this topic, which obviously can be really heavy. I mean, most of the conversations where this word comes up, it's not all like hee, like, oh, isn't that cute? I
Right.
mean, so um yeah. So no, I really appreciate that and I appreciate your willingness to kind of dig in on this. So I mean, maybe the next question for me is just like, so maybe it's how about going a bit more into it? I mean, like what maybe a bit more information in terms of how this is coming up for you or the connections or the meanings or the things that are concerning you or challenging you or the things that you're feeling like, well, maybe it's time to let this go or, I don't know. I'm just, yeah. What's coming up for you right
Ooh,
now?
that is an excellent question. I think that I struggle with letting the light in and moving forward and feeling loved by universe, the source, the collective, because I feel like I have scars from sin
Mm,
and whatever
mm,
sin might mean to somebody. Um,
mhm,
and it oftentimes it feels like, when I've done something that I'm ashamed of, it feels like that is a permanent part of me, like that sticks to
mm,
me throughout my life, no matter how far
mm,
into the future I go. Whereas when I do something good, I feel like it doesn't feel permanent in the same way. It doesn't feel as meaningful. And that kind of,
mm,
it makes me a little bit sad that I see it
mhm.
that way. Um,
Yeah.
and I think I definitely struggle with self-forgiveness and fear of judgment, like judgment from others like around me, but also from like a higher power. Um, it makes me feel like I'm not deserving of help or healing or joy. And these are all really heavy things to deal with. Um,
Mhm,
and oftentimes I think like, okay, well, maybe I'm ready to let go of this thing that either I did or happened to me, but I felt like I caused in some way that felt sinful, like, it's just something like that. And I'm like, maybe I'm
mhm,
ready to let go of it. But in my mind, I think like, but have I done enough to repay that, to move on from that? And then it kind of just becomes this cycle of
mhm,
well, how do I move forward? But have I done enough? But I'm obsessing over it. And I never
mhm,
actually feel free from it. Um,
mhm.
and it can lead to really dark places, really
Yeah.
hopeless places where I feel like all I am is an accumulation of badness or sin or, just these
Mhm,
things that have happened or that I've done. And it's very isolating because I don't look at other people that way. Um, I have
mhm,
friends that I know that tell me they've done things that they feel bad about, and I don't judge them the same way. I don't see
mhm,
them as just a collection of sin. Um, so I think earlier when I said it was very relevant, definitely. Yeah,
mhm. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's
it's
wow.
heavy.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm gonna be, be really honest with you. I mean, my heart is really going out to you right now.
Oh.
Uh Whew, okay. Yeah, I'm just ooh. Yeah, I didn't expect that. But no, that what you shared is so perfect because um I think part of what I'm feeling is I'm I'm feeling what you're sharing with me partially because I know very much about what you're talking about from my own personal experiences. And yet what you're talking about is an experience that like a lot of other people are having, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not just you. There are all of these other people that are experiencing very similar things, and I think I'm partially a bit overwhelmed by my sense of that.
Yes.
That's what I feel like I'm actually feeling it right now. So,
Hmm.
whew, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. This entire episode, everyone, is going to be about sin. Okay. That is, man, and we may need to go into a whole other one and another one. Okay. To unpack this a bit. So, yeah, I mean, everything that you're saying, the fact that I'm feeling it so palpably at this point, suggests that we are dealing with things that are very real for you and for other people. And so my hope for our conversation is that some things may come to light that may be of help to you and to those who may listen in on our conversation at some point, which is the point of why we're doing this thing. But this one feels especially important. Yeah. So in the conditions on this planet, the energetic conditions, the thought forms, everything that's floating around creating this really awful spiritual, emotional, psychological weather on the planet. And it's not a new thing. It's just a bit more intense than it usually is. Uh, right. This idea of the stickiness of sin, I mean, you just put it so well. It's like I accumulate these things. I don't think I can really release them, forgive
Hmm.
myself for them, or allow some higher power to forgive me for them or others to forgive me. So therefore, I just keep accumulating this weight upon me because I don't know how to let it go. I don't know how to release it,
Yes.
how to heal it, and how to say, okay, bye bye. Thank you for the gifts and the lessons, and I am free, So I get that, and I think, and I mean, I'm excited because, like, my my practice, I mean, this is it helps with this. I mean, it does more than help. I mean, we can we can receive healing for all this stuff. Okay, so it's possible, it's doable.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So anyways, anyone who's out there like, well, there's no hope because I'm just here. No, there's hope. And the fact is too that even the people that you might encounter, like, and to think about it, I mean, a big part of this topic is self-love. Like someone could tell you about the awful thing they did, right? And you take that in and you're like, well, it doesn't change how I feel about you. I still love you. You're my friend. I care about you, whatever it is. And yet that same love and kindness, patience, forgiveness, whatever you want to call it for other people, you, me, others, we are unwilling, unable to give these things to ourselves. I mean, isn't that interesting,
Hmm.
the gift that we're so free to give to other people on so many occasions, not to say we're 100% or that we're always there, but in so many times, what you realize is we see we have a sense of the pain that actually inspired those unloving, unkind, disharmonious acts or choices on the parts of others. And we are not necessarily as aware of the pains, the hurts, the injuries that we have sustained from our own unique experiences of trauma that have informed our own errors and mistakes, and then the other thing that's coming to me is the idea that, like, we see people walking around and they seem maybe more at peace with their choices, or
Hmm.
they don't seem to carry the same burdens necessarily that we're carrying, because there are burdens and we're very aware of them. I mean, we're carrying them around all over the place, and they weigh on our hearts and our minds and even on our bodies, and so we carry these things that we're very aware of them. We're intimately familiar with our burdens, and yet we see other people around walking around, and so many people in this world. I mean, part of figuring out how to get by in this world is sort of carrying pain in ways that doesn't really show to other people how much in pain we are. And so there's a lot of stuff hidden, that's going on with other people. And we could tell ourselves the stories like, oh, well, shoot, somehow they're able to forgive themselves. And maybe they truly have. But a lot of times, you look under the thin veneer of social niceties and things like that, and it's like, oh, okay, this person was just triggered by that. Okay, yeah, you know, um, yeah, and so that idea of self-love, of self-forgiveness, let alone the love and forgiveness that comes from Source, the Creator, from others, even, and then yeah, these ideas of associated with, which I associate with certain, I'll call them religious ideas, that somehow
Hmm.
Source is a cosmic accountant who is keeping score, who is keeping track
Yes.
of these things and saying, oh, naughty or nice, oh, naughty, 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 naughty,
Right,
on the
right.
list. And it's like, it's just piling up, and there's no way
Exactly.
to erase it. There's no way to, the list just keeps getting longer and longer. And now I've got 50 pounds of scroll paper on my back from all of my naughties and everything. And then
Hmm.
the judgment that's associated with that. And the judgment is also, for me, the word that's coming up is condemnation, like that,
Yes.
that I am condemning myself, that source is condemning me, that even other, like to your points earlier, that other people see or are aware of these things, so therefore they're condemning me. So then, then you have this sense of disconnection, of isolation, not only from yourself, not only from source, but also from other people. The fear that, oh, if people found out about these things, then somehow I'm going to lose, family, friends, community, relationships, whatever these things that are meaningful to me, that matter to me, that I associate with my very survival in this world, let alone my sense of who I am and my sense of self-worth, all of that coming in, and then, and then that sense of not deserving, of not feeling worthy of even the things that deep down I know I want, that I know I desire. And yet there's this it's like sometimes a chorus of voices kind of saying, like, you're not worthy, you don't deserve those things, because of
Hmm.
this massive list of naughties, on your back that you're carrying around with you everywhere. And then we come to that place where it's like, well, perhaps it's time to let go of this thing that I've been carrying, But the question is, well, how do I do that? How? How do I let this go so that
Right.
it's really gone and that it never comes back, Because people do that all the time, right? They're like, oh, I forgave so and so about that. And then something happens, is like, oh my gosh, I've totally not forgiven them for that. And then,
Right. Yeah.
right, for ourselves, like, okay, I'm going to forgive myself for that mistake I made, and then it pops into your head, or something happens that reminds you of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm an awful person and I hate myself, and oh crap, that I didn't actually let that go, even though I was absolutely convinced I let it go. I'm totally, absolutely convinced. And I didn't, and then it's like, well, why couldn't I let it go? I must be a bad person. It must really be mine. Like, this is who I am. Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And so then you've got that cycle, right? That you described very well, in terms of, like, I do something I think is bad, or I experience something, whatever. I have judgments about that. I have ideas. And then I'm like, well, but I really want to let it go. So I try to let it go with whatever tools or means or things that I have, and people have different religious things for this or whatever, and yet, oh, it comes back. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm even worse than I thought. And now I'm beating myself up again, rejudging myself, so then it's just like layer upon layer upon layer. And you're on this hamster wheel of torture, that you can never get off of, because it's like everywhere I go, I'm just, I'm stepping in it again, it's just there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty, yeah, that's pretty heavy. But it's very, very real. Yeah. So I'll be quiet a second. Is there anything that you want to say in response to what I just said before I start some other new kind of, I don't know, litany or whatever it's going to be?
Um, I think that all resonated, and definitely there's that fear of like, do I even deserve to let it go? And then what happens if I let this go and I move on with my life? Like it almost makes me feel fearful in a way. Um,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
what if something
Hmm.
comes in and like something bad happens, and I don't really know how to expand upon that. It's just kind of just this like simmering fear. And
Hmm.
I think there's also fear of like, well, when's the punishment coming? Is it already
Hmm.
here? Am I punishing myself? Is it
Hmm.
in the afterlife or whatever happens
Hmm.
after death? Is it
Hmm.
karma? I know we've talked a bit about karma,
Yeah.
and that always kind of is in my head.
Yeah.
As you can see, I think about these things a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I know that it's very easy for me to convince myself, oh, I've sinned way more than other people my age. And it's way heavier and it's more severe and more shameful than other people. And it's kind of this like almost cognitive distortion that mine is worse,
Hmm.
and also that it's going to be even harder to heal than other people's. Like, oh, mine is more hopeless than other people.
Yeah.
And that can
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
very like almost like self-damning. Like I'm not letting
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm like pushing away the ease that could be coming into my life to let these things go. Um,
Hmm.
and it's very sad, and I think it can be hard for people to reach me when I'm there, but I also feel like there's still hope, and I know that there are so many other people who feel this way, and I have hope for them as well.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone
Yeah.
to ever think that,
Hmm.
oh God, this is so heavy. I'll never get out of it and there's no healing. Because I think there is. I think it
Yeah.
just takes some work. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really good points there. And the thing that really jumped out at me at the very beginning of your comments was in this, because I had this belief, this idea that I carried for a long time that I make a mistake, right? Call it sin, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
Hmm.
the word isn't as important. I mean, we're talking about these very deep feeling states that we tie into our identity and experience and everything. So I make a mistake. Let's say I judge myself as being bad, not just making a mistake, but that now I have taken on the identity of, you know, bad or worse than or whatever.
Hmm.
And then what I do with that is I keep that awareness of that mistake and the circumstances around it, everything like in my memory. I kind of hold on to it because what I tell myself, and I'm not saying this is you, I'm just telling you like my own dynamic that you've just
Hmm.
reminded me of that I had actually forgotten about till you just said it, which was then I'm in this hyper vigilant state of okay, if I encounter anything that looks like this again, then when that happens, I will do this differently. And so I had this idea that I carried around with me for a long time, the idea that my ability to remember all of my mistakes and errors was kind of like in my own mind, it was like this superpower that then I had this vast library of memories that I could draw upon to be like, okay, if I encounter that again, don't do that, do this. If I encounter that, don't do that, do that. Like it was this thing where I thought that I was protecting myself from future pain and injury to
Yes.
myself and others by holding on to these things like and again, I don't even remember when I became aware of this, that I was doing this, that this was an actual like defense mechanism, that I was employing to say, okay, I'm going to hold on to this stuff. And I was afraid to let it go because if I let that go, right, I could make the same mistake again and experience the same pain or worse. And that terrified me, right? It's like I experienced it once. I don't want to experience it again. So I'm going to cling to this stuff and I'm going to hold on to it for dear life, hoping that my brain can remember what I screwed up and how I screwed it up so that I don't do it again. And I thought this kept me safe. I thought like this was the way to live. And at some point in my journey, I realized that all of that was a lie, you know, that there was no truth to it. That actually, as I started to learn and appreciate and perceive the workings of things like the law of attraction, I started to realize I'm like, oh my gosh, by holding on to these things, by keeping these memories alive, by not allowing them to be healed and released, that I think I'm protecting myself, but actually what I'm doing is I'm attracting more of these things so that all I'm going to do is I'm going to constantly recreate scenarios that resonate with these past feeling and thought frequencies and everything so that I'm
Hmm.
just going to keep doing it over and over again and I'm just going to accumulate. And again, I mean, I can tell you how I got to that point of realization. So I feel like I'm getting ahead of the story a bit, but that realization that what I was doing was not working. And at that point I knew how to receive healing, right? I knew how to heal these things. I knew what the process was. I knew what my practice was. So that realization then really helped me to be like, okay, like I am not helping myself by holding on to these things. So you know what I mean? Like you're the different levels of our being interact with these things. And so, eventually like my mind catches up to my soul where it's like, oh, this is really not functional. And you thought that these were protecting you, but they're actually bringing you more of the stuff that you can't stand and that you don't like and that makes you feel awful and ashamed and bad and all these different things. And then so that helped me to kind of double down in terms of my healing process and my willingness to experience healing and forgiveness of these things so that I could literally be like free of them and not have them basically recycling, over and over in my experience. So that came through really
Wow.
loud and clear in the beginning
Yeah,
of what you just shared, because does that dynamic make sense to you?
so much. I think that is a wonderful point that you brought up because I've seen that in myself. Um, and the horrifying realization that I had when I thought about how I do that is that I've actually repeated some of these things that I felt so incredibly bad about. Like I cannot
Hmm.
describe the
Yeah,
pain. And I thought, oh, I'll never do this again. And I did it again.
right.
And that was horrifying to me. I'm like, how I must not have been sorry. I something must be wrong with me, something
Yeah,
so terrible. And I realized that I was just like identifying so hard with these negative things that it almost was like, well, this is just like who I am. Like, oh, I
yeah.
guess I am doomed to be someone that does this. Um, and so by obsessing over it and trying so hard to protect myself from doing it again,
Yeah, right.
um, you're kind of right. Like it's almost like attracting this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard. This might be shifting the conversation a little bit, but it's kind of relevant to what I'm thinking about. Um, People have different perspectives on what sin is and what counts as a sin. Some religions have guidelines, um, and people, will even argue within those religions on, oh, this is or
Hmm.
this isn't, stuff like that. Um, and so
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh, well, how do I know what I should um be really like repenting? I guess repenting I always feel like has a really big religious connotation with it, but how do I um like get past this? And
Yeah.
because I'll have times where I'll tell a friend and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I did this thing, I feel so bad, and they're like, that's not that bad, like not a sin, like I don't know what you're talking about, why are you so upset about it, that's human. And then I'll have other people that are like, wow, that was really messed up, like you should feel bad.
Yeah.
um and so it can
Yep.
be hard, and I think it's especially hard at the age that I'm at because I'm a young adult and I'm still figuring things out a lot, and I'm still trying to think like what do I think, what are my beliefs and my morals, and I feel like everyone's coming from all these different directions
Yeah.
saying like you should feel bad and we're going to put this judgment on you, or
Yeah.
nothing bad exists and like you're not doing anything wrong and don't worry about your effects on other people because we're doomed anyways. And I'm like, I don't want that mentality either.
Yeah.
So finding that
Yeah.
balance can be difficult,
Yeah.
figuring out what actually do I consider a sin, and again, like even what is my idea of sin, how do I define
Mm.
that, because I'm honestly not entirely sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, right. This is God help us, literally. Yeah, this is the situation humanity has created for ourselves. And the truth of life on this planet is that pretty much everything you experience in your life on Earth at this point, it's a mixed bag. There's
Hmm.
truth and error. It's like they're both in the paper bag together, shaken together. You reach your hand in and you don't know if you're getting out darkness or light. You don't know what you're going to pull out of that bag because there's so many opinions and perspectives floating around about this. And while there's some truth to them, there's also way more error than truth in most of these opinions and perspectives that people
Mhm.
express. It's like the blind leading the blind, right? I mean,
Mhm.
people thinking that they see clearly when they've got this massive log in their eye. I'm pulling out of Jesus's teachings from the Bible here, but I mean, it's absolutely true, right? I mean, that we deceive ourselves. We think that we see clearly when, especially when it comes to other people, when we don't even know what's going on within ourselves. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. It's so messed up. I think I'm going to start at the beginning. Okay. So the beginning for me is source. Source for me is the origin of everything that is good and true and beautiful. Source, a key component of the source's being is what I will call unconditional divine love. And so Source has brought into being this vast cosmos, vast multidimensionality, you know, so much diversity in all of these different dimensions and aspects of being. And so Source, um, being Source, has created, I will call us creatures, in the image and likeness of the Source's invisible self. For me, Source is soul, and therefore the key component of my own identity as a child of the Source is what I call soul, what others may call higher self or core self. Words don't matter. It's like this is kind of the essence of who I am, made in the image and likeness of Source. I get born into this world, this particular planet, which is unlike any other planet in the universe, and some key components really super duper unlike other planets in the universe. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Okay. As soon as I come, my soul enters into the little, I'll use the word fetus in my mama's womb. I come under an energetic assault from what I will call the human condition, or my personal favorite phrase, which no one has picked up yet, is the fabricated world of human invention. So I come in, I'm a soul, I'm wide open. I'm like, I just want to love you all because that's where I come from. I just want to love you all. And I get slapped, like even in my mother's womb, nothing against my mother or any mothers, but the conditions on this planet are harsh. And in most mothers' cases, they're getting through whatever the mother's love she has for this child and she has for herself. Stuff is slipping through from the human condition, from her own human condition, her own resonance with it, from whatever is going on in the spiritual atmosphere on this planet. So we're getting beat up from the moment we enter into our mother's wounds. We are traumatized, whether we are consciously aware of this or not. And what we start to do is we start to absorb the defense systems and mechanisms that are available to us within our mothers, within our family systems, within our lineages, shoot, within the DNA, within the human condition as a whole. I mean, all of these things are now encoded with these things that are like, oh, in order to protect myself from getting slapped this way, what I do is I do this with my energy as a soul. And basically, what I'm doing is I'm creating blocks and shields in order to protect me from these things because that's what's available to me as options within the atmosphere I have been born into. And so this whole, I'll use the word dance, although
Mhm.
anyways, I'll use dance. It feels better than battle or something. We get born, we continue to get slapped around despite our parents' best efforts, despite whatever systems or institutions or collectives or organizations we may be associated or affiliated with, religious or not, whatever. We continue to get slapped around because it's really harsh in this world, and hurt people, right? I mean,
Right.
that's how it goes. So then, we undergo socialization, training, education, indoctrination in terms of these ideas about the nature of our own identity, the nature of how people make choices and why they make choices, or shoot, I mean, in a lot of cases, we could call them so-called choices or super duper limited choices or whatever. Um, ideas like sin, ideas like judgment, condemnation, separation, exile. You go down the list, there's all these possibilities that now exist because now we have words for these things, and then we exist within certain cultures or subcultures where it's like, oh, these are the things that are sinful, and so like they'll be, oftentimes they're related to bodily functions, or they're related to things connected to human sexuality and reproduction, or they're it's so funny. I mean, how many people are going around saying it's a sin, to undermine the earth? I mean, to me, I would consider that a sin. Yet,
Mhm.
it's supported by laws of nations all over the world to, dig holes in the earth that, damage the planet and that kill people and all these different things. Like, oh, that's not a sin, that's just business. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
interesting. Um, and again, we could do this at whatever, any level, it doesn't matter. But the important thing is what you've brought up in terms of like, well, I mean, obviously it's important the impact that it has on everyone, but I mean, we only truly have control or dominion over ourselves. So we take this stuff on, and then no one gives us the tools, the capacities, the knowledge, or the understanding to actually then undergo a healing journey where we are like, okay, this is what I need to do. I don't care whether it's a sin or not. The question is, like, when I contemplate these situations or circumstances that I have experienced or that I have in some way, I'll use the word inflicted on others potentially. What is my experience of that? How does it make me feel? Like, how do I
Mm,
feel
mhm.
about that? What do I think about myself? Who do I think I am? And how does that affect my sense of my relationship with myself, with others, with source? Take your
Yes.
pick. The root of everything that we call sin is really trauma. And when I come at it from within that framework, not to say that there aren't people that truly make really evil and awful decisions and choices and things, whether it's myself or others. I mean, I've done these things and all of that, and I'm pretty confident most people on the planet have. It's how am I feeling about, what am I thinking about? How does it relate to my identity? And then, well, how am I going to carry that? Do I have to carry it? And then is there a way for me not to carry it anymore? Is there a way to be
Mhm.
released from it, freed, forgiven, whatever that is? And the thing that breaks my heart is that, like, when I was on my own journey with this, what seems to be a long time ago, where I felt trapped, in these choices that I had made and the consequences of them, and things that had happened to me, and judgments and ideas I had about these things. I got to a place, you kind of described it, this sort of this despair, this hopelessness, or feeling doomed or cursed or whatever, and and at that point, like, I no one I mean, I keep thinking back on this because it's come up in some other conversations recently. Like, I did not know what healing was, right? Like,
Mm, mhm.
I I had been exposed to a reality of allopathic medicine where, I mean, okay, maybe the body healed itself. So I had a material example of this, but I didn't necessarily have to do anything with that in terms of my own experiences. I might have to see a doctor, I might take a medication, I might undergo some kind of therapy, but like, my body heals and then I usually forget about it. Maybe I've got scars. I've got some scars to show some of the, ridiculous things I've done in my life, on my physical body, like I'm guessing most people do. But when it came to the idea of emotional, spiritual, psychological healing, like, this was not even, as an early 20 something, it was not on my radar. I had no experience with such things. Like, it seemed an absolute impossibility to me, and hence my hopelessness, that I'm like, oh my gosh, and I also had a spiritual perspective. I knew that I would continue after I left my physical body. So it's like, well, if I kill myself, I'm just going to suffer in the afterlife for this because I can't let it go. I don't know how, right? I can't receive healing for it or forgiveness or whatever you want to call it. And so, but it was in the depths of that despair that this little, like, I look back on it now, this little glimmer of hope, like a question came up, I feel like from deep within my soul, that was like, well, but what if there was a way, like, it's like, what if there was a way that this is possible, like that I could receive, somehow be freed of this thing that seems just relentless, right? Because it's always there in front of me. It's causing me physical pain, emotional pain, psychological pain, spiritual pain. Like I'm in a prison of my own making, and I have no idea how to escape.
That was very interesting. I like hearing other people's stories with how they grapple with this because like I was saying before, it's very isolating and I feel like I'm the only one
Mm,
sometimes,
yeah.
especially because a lot of my friends, they're not necessarily on the same path as me with seeking out this healing in I guess in the same way. Unfortunately, I think a lot of my friends are also struggling and I think they kind of numb out to things.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think they don't know what to look for in terms of like hope
Yeah.
and healing, and awakening and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to align myself more with other people who are trying.
Yeah.
But all that being said is I
Yeah.
don't often get to hear other people really express what it's been like because a lot of people are not they're not willing to share or they haven't really looked inside that
Yeah.
much. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I definitely related to that a bit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. We look forward to you joining us for the rest of our conversation in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Wake Up Call for the Soul with Bill and Claire. May we love ourselves and all more and more with each passing moment. We wish you the very best and highest. Until next time.